Within each and every role player lives this homeless character who wants nothing more than to quiet the heartbeat of every living thing that stands in his way. Today we celebrate this all too familiar character with...
Well now, looky here. It's the Murder Hobo Show.
Smash this button and we're going to get after it. Welcome to the Murder Hobo RPG Show, a proud member of the Tabletop RPG Network, or at least we used to be until they disbanded and canceled it. I should have erased that from the show notes, but I suck and I forgot. This is episode 36, Savage Rifts, aptly entitled LANTIS. That's what we're going to call this one.
Aww.
Recorded May 12th, 2021. I'm one of your hosts, Gary, a.k.a. The Murder Hobo, and I am here with none other than Uncle J. Raz, a.k.a. Crapped and Colon, better known as the Shizzle Rizzle Razzle Toilet Master of Doom. What's going on, Uncle J?
Well, thank you. Not a whole lot, man. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I like how you give me all the honorifics in front of our more esteemed guest here tonight.
Well,
I am at least the toilet master. I'm not the toilet sweeper upper, so that's good. I've elevated.
Hey, there's always got to be a janitor. Always got to be a janitor.
That's right.
We are joined tonight by Sean Owen Roberson, and I have aptly titled him the Savage Rifts Master, but I didn't have room to put it on your title. So if you looked at the stream, Sean, it's got a cool little Rifts Master thing. And then it was funny because you were saying before the show started, you're like, I don't really have a very good background, so maybe you can opt or crop some of that out. But if you look at the Twitch stream, you're pretty much like the center of attention because I made yours.
All right, let me open up the Twitch stream so I can see it. Yeah,
it's generally going to be your head. Now, if you're watching this on a 75-inch TV with Twitch up, your head's the size of a freaking watermelon, but it does look good. You're a handsome fella.
Thank you.
With a svelte voice. Like I said, you could be the ham in this sandwich anytime.
Oh man, that's a tempting offer.
No, it's not. Really. It's
no. I'm gonna dodge that one.
This is a podcast about role-playing games because we like them all. As usual, we're going to flap our mouth holes through this in an attempt to sound like we know what we're talking about. And because I generally don't, and Jay does, no, Jay's up here, and Sean is the Rifts Master, I've compiled an ensemble of geniuses in the world of Savage Rifts, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you. At least I'm in good company.
How's that?
I was about to say the same thing.
So, Jay, read the blue part.
I'm reading the blue part. I was just you threw me off a little bit. So we are an RPG entertainment podcast, and although you might occasionally be able to glimpse a nugget of truth or inspiration from our many years of gaming experience, we promise you that it will be unintentional. Also, please note that we stream this podcast live on Twitch and convert it into podcast audio format. You can check us out every second Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, 4 Hawaiian, like 13 somewhere else. So check it out there.
What time is it now? It's 7:03. I think like 4 o'clock our time is 8 p.m. in Japan. 4 a.m. is 8 p.m. I think I know that. I have a Japanese international, so he gets up at 4 a.m. to play video games.
Wow.
That's right. So on tonight's show, we're going to be continuing our little riff stint here. But we're not going to do actually any of this custom RPG stuff. We're just going to get right into it. We got an hour with Sean Owen Roberson, who is... What are you? I mean, I know that you're the head chief, the big cheese, the guy, the Savage Rifts guy, because we've talked before when Rifts came out on either the Wild Guy or on the Savage Rifter podcast that we used to run. And you met up with Hensley somewhere, and the two of you did some schmoozing, and before you know it, you're the Rifts guy. You're it.
That's not exactly how it happened, but I went to after the military, I went back to school. I went to UT Dallas and was studying game design. And one of my classmates his dad works and writes on ETU. I was one of the creators of East Texas University for Savage Worlds. And so we went down to Rice University for a convention. I met Shane and a bunch of the guys. they said you should come to another convention. I met, the other people working on Savage Rifts at the time, and then it's kind of grew from there. But yeah, it's at this point I am the line manager for the product line. So I do everything from the art, requesting all the art and handling the art production process with our great people at Sigil Entertainment, who Pinnacle contracts for art, and work with Palladium Books with Kevin Simbita to make sure that it all fits what he wants it to look like, and fits his vision. And then I do work with some other writers, especially on some upcoming products we've got coming that I can't really talk about too much yet. But yeah, work with other writers to make sure that everything's kind of on point. I do basically all the layout and stuff like that as well as with Atlantis, I did all the writing and design.
Wow.
Hey,
What
it's like touching the Savage Rifts god.
I was about to ask him if he also like washes the bottles too and like cleans up the dishes that after everybody's done. You do a lot of plate spinning there, Mister. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm happy to be able to do a lot of it. Most of it's really, really cool.
No, that's great, man, to be able to work in the industry and be able to contribute like that. And also, too, I just want to say really quickly that your contributions to the new Rifts books have been. I give you a chef's kiss right there, because I'm telling you, like nothing from nothing. Like I think Sean Patrick Fannin did an amazing job, but there was something
absolutely
about the way that these newer books, I guess, even with Suede, it's kind of like, I think the way they just flow a little bit better to me in some reason. I think some things make a little more sense in some aspects. And so I just want to say just a phenomenal job that you and the Birchers and everybody have done on the new editions.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was definitely a team effort. The Birchers did an awesome job on the new, the other two new world books. I worked and primarily wrote Empires of Humanity, and they did Arcana and Mysticism and Blood and Banes. And then, Shane and Clint, and, well, especially, in the first edition of Savage Rifts, Sean Patrick Fannin, Ross Watson, Clint Black, they all did really great work designing that and getting that going. So when we got the chance to update it to Suede, I was able to really benefit from their hard work. And then we had a couple of 3 years, almost a little more, at least almost 4 years of feedback from the fans that we could then dig into. And so Shane and Clint and Simon, if anybody doesn't know Simon Lucas, he's like Pinnacle's hidden gem that a lot of people don't realize. But there was a lot of hands on deck especially with some of the bigger changes or updates. But yeah, we got brought it all up to Suede, and I think Suede's a really great fit. Suede is definitely the foundation of the new edition of Savage Rifts, and I hope, and I'm glad to hear that from you. I hope that it plays really smoothly with that new edition.
It's interesting, right? When I kind of did my own little conversion before the whole American Armageddon series came out. And there are some things that I kind of hit with. I kind of did exactly the way that you guys did, but there's some things as far as I think like the power modifiers, I was like way off base or whatever. And so I just want to say that as soon as it came out, I was like, man, this is genius. This is exactly how, oh, wow, that's how I should have did that. Man, I'm a dummy. I should so I was kind of like critiquing myself, but so it was really, really elegant in a lot of ways, like what you guys did.
Well, thanks. I mean, it's funny because that elegance can cost a lot of man hours and a lot of effort, right? No, it was interesting because we had Sean Bircher went through, and he he made a big update to include the power modifiers by converting the mega powers to power modifiers. And I think he did a great job. Then Shane came back in and said, "Hey, I want you to reapproach this and build it using the same sort of conceptual and mathematical frameworks as the powers in Suede." And there was a lot of revisions there where I was emailing him, and we got Clint in there, and there's a lot of discussions with Simon, and with the fans, right? We had a lot of feedback from really just tons and tons of hundreds of great fans that were very active in the feedback process and the playtest process. And so in the end, I think that we got something really cool out of the other end of that entire process. So kudos to Shane for, making it possible for me to do that by paying me money and, giving the time and the access to the fans. But yeah, I mean, it's, that's not just something that happens for free, right? So that was a really great opportunity to be a part of that.
No, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Now, let me ask you this here, Sean. Like, how did you get started I imagine it was Palladium Rifts is how you got started. And was it Palladium how you got started in RPGs? I guess that's like curiosity. Where did you get started, like back in the day?
Yeah, so it was funny. I remember the first contact I had was I was in gym class in middle school, and one of my buddies had the red box for Dungeons and Dragons, and we started dorking around with that. And I was, I think I played a rogue, and he died when some cinder, we were messing with we were looking for a treasure in some sort of chimney. And some rocks fell down and killed him. He had 2 hit points. And then I made a paladin, and he died to giant rats. I was like, how are the giant rats do more damage than my broadsword? But anyways, no, I played a bunch of different some of the RPGs from back in the day. AD&D. I played some of the D6 Star Wars. I was a big war gamer. I played a lot of BattleTech back in the day, and went to conventions and competed and all. It was kind of fun. It was kind of crazy but fun. That was my first contact with gaming conventions. And then, as I was slowly also being drawn into Warhammer 40,000, I picked up my first RPG. I was a big Ninja Turtles fan, and actually have my book still. So my very first RPG that I personally ever owned was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so that got me in with the Palladium stuff. And then my buddies and I, we branched out to Ninjas and Super Spies so we could do Kung Fu with all our mutant animals. And we got into some Robotech and Heroes Unlimited. And then Rifts came out. And I've been playing that pretty much ever since. There always is some Rifts campaign.
Yeah, I mean, when did it come out? I want to say 90, 91, so 30 years strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to mine from that. Just the broad, the broad, or the depth of the whole series, rather. So
right.
Yeah, and it's still going strong. And there's still people that are still loving the Palladium system that are like, I'm still on it. I'm going to play it, and you can't take these 200 dice out of my hand, So.
Well, more power to him. I think that Kevin Simbita is I think he's like the world builder, the preeminent world builder operating in tabletop role-playing games today. I think he creates amazing worlds and characters, and the success and the continued to now, right? The still viability of his company and his products is a testament to that, in my opinion.
So
I agree. Just go ahead, bud.
I was just going to say, usually when my stories start with way back when gym class happened, they don't have the same outcome. They usually end up with some horror story. But I was a nerd, but I have horror stories for gym class, but I'm sure that would be a different episode.
But you have to climb the rope, Gary. Is that what it's all about?
Yeah, I had some thigh burns, to be honest, but I mean,
thigh burns.
Don't shame me. Don't shame me because I couldn't climb the rope.
You're shaming yourself, but I said, did you have to climb it? I didn't say whether or not you.
Speaking to Kevin's ability to build worlds, I was trying to read some of the Atlantis stuff today. So earlier on, before we became the Murder Hobo Show, Victor Diaz, who's in the chat, hey Victor, I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, let's do a podcast about something. And Savage Rifts had just come out for Deluxe. When I was a kid, Savage Rifts, or not Savage Rifts, Rifts was a thing that you were told to steer clear of because it was mechanically not sound, but the world was pretty good and stuff. So I was that's I think what brought it to its fame. But I was like, everybody was just like, it's too difficult, don't bother getting involved, blah blah blah. So when Savage Rifts came out, I was like, hell yes, here's my chance to get back into it and start over. And so I reached out to Victor, and we started the Savage Rifters podcast, and we went over the deluxe version with a fine-tooth comb, talked about all sorts of stuff. He starts filling me in on all these things and stuff. And here we are, present day, doing the Murder Hobo Show. And I'm like, I'm going to call Sean, or at least send him an email, and I'm like, just come and talk riffs. And then Sean's like, I got a surprise for you. And I'm like, ooh, which is pretty cool. We're going to get to that. So
and I don't want to drop too much, but I do want to get some teasers in here.
Yeah. So I was reading some things about what we were talking about, and you want to talk about world building? Oh my man, there's things in here where he puts like to the number. There's this many prisoners. There's this many people. There's this many gargoyles. There's this many, and I'm like, how do you get to that point? You're like, okay, well, there's this many. Poke, poke, poke. The keyboard.
Right.
That's how many there are, right? But the details. The details are phenomenal, man. He talks about the cities and the places and the people and the slaves and how many of this person and what these people do. And it's just like, you just start going through it and you're like, man, this is so in depth that it's unbelievable that this actually came out of somebody's, like, you know, mostly a single person's brain.
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of it, right? So no, it's really interesting because Kevin did birth this whole megaverse. I mean, it's only really the way to put it because of how much ground it covers. I would say that that's one of the things that I think that we've tried to do that's been really smart with the Savage Rifts products is we're not trying to replace the Palladium books, right? They're still there. And we're trying to make sure that everything's kosher and lines up, but instead make sure that players have all the stuff they need to play, you know, their favorite concepts or ideas from a certain section of the world or whatever when they're playing Savage Rifts, and also to give them great adventure material. That I've heard a lot of Palladium players are using our adventure material and our maps, and they love our art, right? And I get a big kick out of that. I love it because the way the adventures are written, you could easily just say, okay, well now it's, you know, this many. Coalition dead boys and a couple of dog boys and blah, blah, blah. You can easily do that in Palladium, right? And then we have the world overviews. And so those help catch up. So new players can get a good overview of the different major ideas and conflicts and stuff going on in a certain part of the world. But if you want more information, dive into the original Palladium books. They're still in print. They're still out there. They're still making them, right? So that's just you realize you're just scratching the surface. I love that when we see it on the forums, players saying, "Hey, where do I get more information? This sounds really cool. Like this whole continent." Is like, well, here's 10 books you can go look at. You know. And everything from populations to what percentage, what down to the 10th of a percentage is a certain specific DB type sometimes, and you know, all types of stuff.
Yeah, and anytime something Rifts comes out now, I throw my money at it. Or not Palladium Rifts even too, just because everything takes time. It takes time, like you said, to write these books. My experience with Eric when he put out Wise Guys took him 2 years of his life to write that book and stuff like that. And you guys are pumping out forward, working with multiple teams, trying to bring it into Savage Worlds. Like I could imagine how much time that's taken. But there was a bundle that came out or whatever that had a bunch of Palladium books. So now that I bought the bundle and I have it came with 25, I'm like, I need to get the whole collection. So I've been anytime a Palladium sale comes up, I'm like, oh, taking that PDF. Oh, don't have that one. So I'm sure there's some back and forth with the money and whatnot. But let's get into it. I'm going to let you introduce what it is. I'm sure I've already kind of given it away, but tell us what you can tell us, man. Let's squeeze this lemon.
So the next big thing that's coming is Atlantis and the Demon Seas, and one of the things that sometimes I just call it Atlantis, right? Or we just refer to it as Atlantis. And the thing that's kind of a misnomer there is that this also includes all of your content for the New Navy, Tritonia, basically Rift's Underseas, as well as Lemuria. So we're trying to make sure that all the major factions, all the major things that are going on are contained in here as well, and they're well integrated. So that's some of the early feedback I've gotten from people that have read the manuscript, is that they really enjoy seeing how those factions all work together in a pretty cool way for some of the different adventures and stuff.
This is going to be the first book that's outside of North America then. Where on the world are you placing it where it was normally? Like I noticed that it was, at least when I was reading the Atlantis book, the old school one, it says that Atlantis reappeared and took up so much water volume that it flooded a bunch of places. Sorry for their loss.
Right.
But is that going to sort of be the same storyline? It's going to pop back into existence now? And
oh yeah, this is absolutely, this is 100%, in line with Palladium lore. I've gone through, double checked a lot of little things, like, from the fact that off the west coast of Atlantis is the Bermuda Triangle and Bermuda, and you've got the Azores off the east coast, right? Even just down to the map details. Kevin looks at all of that. We go over all that stuff. So there's a lot of cool things that are in here, and the nice thing is that besides specifically the Tomorrow Legion, this is all kosher riffs circa 109 PA in the timeline, and all of the Savage Rifts books are going to all be set, except for maybe some future adventure material, but all the world books and and source books are all set in 109 PA, so that you can get a big snapshot of the whole world at once. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is make sure that we bring up the timeline, because some of the books were printed, and they're printed as Rifts came out. It started in 101 PA and then slowly evolved, and now I think it's in 110, 111 PA. And so there's some of the books, when they came out, they were talking about 102 or 103 PA or 105 PA, or the Coalition Wars, right? Period after 105 PA. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to make sure we do, and coordinate everything with Kevin, so that when you see it, it fits Rift's Earth circa mid 109 PA.
Nice. Right after the stage of Tolkien, that's pretty much where everything. That's where.
Right. It's after the Siege of Tolkien and before the Minion War kicks off. Yep. And so with this in this book, yes, Atlantis is where it is, and it's the main location. The other factions like Lemuria, Tritonia, the New Navy, they might have some secret hidden bases a few places on Earth, but they're actually all very transient, right? They travel around Rift's Earth, whether it's a Lemurian floating city like Mu, or if it's the city of Tritonia, which floats around mostly in the Pacific, and then you've also got the New Navy and the USS Ticonderoga, which is a lot of times in the Atlantic, but it can be just about anywhere, right? So,
yeah. I'm just going to ask you this while we're on the topic of bringing it up. Jason Nielsen 72 wants to know: is this going to be a Kickstarter? Are we going to kickstart the Atlantis book?
It will definitely be crowdfunded. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. Those kind of decisions. I know that Pinnacle has a lot of different things they're trying to get out. And so, like, for instance, they recently did an East Texas University crowdfund campaign off of Kickstarter. And so I'm not sure what platform it will be on. Yeah, but it will definitely be crowdfunded.
I don't remember what platform it was either, but yeah, the ETU Study Abroad did come out on it. I think that was their first step off of Kickstarter was that one there. So, but that's cool. It'll be Kickstarter, so that means I'm going to get a bunch of good stuff, some sweet.
Yeah, it'll be crowdfunded. I'm not sure about Kickstarter, so
and stuff like that. All right,
cool. yeah, it'll definitely be a fun campaign.
Now, can you reveal whether or not this is going to be a series of books, or
series as in
let's just say there's a whole trend with the crowdfunding that goes on there. We had American Armageddon, maybe there's a whole other theme with this one.
Oh, right. So with American Armageddon, the big thing there was that, yes, it was 3 books that were trying to not finish North America, but hit all the high points, the important stuff. In the future, I think you're going to see more of a single 200-page book release,
Nice.
because it's a little easier to handle. For production wise and stuff like that. And then, we like that model, and we would like to do more regular releases. So I can't, I get slapped and fingers chopped off or broken if I start talking about dates or timetables or anything like that. But yeah, that is one of the big things that I'm focused on right now.
Yeah. I really like that. Because I think of the popularity of Savage Rifts. What did it? Savage Rifts made 560 some odd thousand in the Kickstarter. Like, there's the big 3. You got Suede, Deadlands, and Rifts are like sort of the money makers, which is really cool. And it's really nice to see that these books keep coming out. Supporting and stuff like that, supporting the Rifts, because a lot of stuff that you find for Savage Worlds, you'll come out with a good book or something like that, and then there won't be really too much that comes out to sort of support it, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But that's just the nature of Savage Worlds. There's some people come out with some good ideas and they do their thing. Who's doing the artwork? The layout's going to look very similar, that kind of stuff. Are you starting to piece all that together? Oh yeah, I mean, the book's in layout. I'm looking at it right now. Can we see it? I'm glad you can't see my other screen. No. No. sorry, Victor. I tried.
What if I show you this picture of George Washington? A green, this green picture of George Washington.
A green picture of George. That's kind of low.
And then I'll show you a picture of an envelope with your address on it.
You are talking to a patriot. At first, I was like, George Washington. I love George Washington. I was like, oh, he's talking about money. No, I don't care. No. It's definitely going to look similar. So I did. I didn't do the original layout, obviously, for the first edition of Rifts for Savage Worlds. But when it came to the Suede update, I did most of that layout work, the reorganization and stuff like that. And then Simon is awesome, because I would just kind of bash down walls and make way and break things, and he'd come in and clean up after me and bring in the other people that need to clean up my messes. But in general, I'm bashing down the walls the same way this time. So I wrote this book straight into the layout. It should flow very similarly. It's a similar organization. It's going to look very similar to the other ones. It's going to be very familiar and easy to parse through. If you've, some people, I've gotten different feedback. It's interesting. Some people think that our books have really great layout and they're easy to parse through. Other people are like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, Savage Worlds, has their own kind of formula for how all that works. And so this is definitely following that formula, and the formula established by the other Rifts books.
So
I think
go ahead, Jay.
No, I think that you make a good point, Sean. I think there is some sort of like calculus involved, like with understanding Savage Worlds. It's like once you start playing Savage Worlds, I mean, you kind of start speaking the language or whatever, and so things start making sense, like one sheets. Right. The whole concept of one sheet
or Savage Tale, right?
Grabbing those or Savage Tale. That you don't need every element filled out. You just you can just sort of like this. Here's some finer points. Blah blah blah. Add what you need to, or take away what you need to, and run with that. And so, as far as I remember reading some of the old the OG Rift adventures, and they were pretty. They had like the hook, lines, and sinkers in there. So
I love the hook, line, and sinker. Yep.
That was those were always pretty neat, and so I think that's kind of like maybe not an evolution, but like I'd say lateral transition, like the hook, line, and sinkers, or with the one sheets and the Savage Tales is sort of like maybe a good way, or the Savage Worlds way of doing that.
Right. Yeah. No. You're right. So the Savage Worlds definitely does have the one sheet concept. For anybody that's unfamiliar with it, is usually a sheet that you could print out front and back. Is the idea, around 1,000 words, that you could take to, say, a convention or run a game with your buddies one night. And as Uncle J Raz is talking about, you don't have the all the details that you might find in some other published adventures, but you've got, I think, more, at least as much as you need to run that adventure with a GM that's comfortable ad-libbing some of the details, because that needs to happen anyways most of the time with most gaming groups, because you never know exactly what characters are going to be there and what their motivations are going to be and all that type of stuff. So I find that the Savage Worlds one sheets and Savage Tales, which can include a one sheet size story or adventure, or move up to something a bit bigger. I feel like it's a real great point between being a little too, not quite enough information to really give you the fleshed out stuff that you need. Because like hook, line, sinkers, I love them, and you could get a whole bunch of them in a book, right? But I still had to do some prep. I still had to prep names for NPCs and different things like that. But with the Savage Tales, I feel like I feel pretty confident reading over a Savage Tale and then running it with my friends. 10 minutes later. And that's what we try and do in these books, is make sure that we each major section of the book, each major chapter, we include that as well. Include a fun Savage Tale so that people can get off to the races, right? And then a game master can roll from there. We also have plot point campaigns in each book. And so, again, if anyone's familiar with Savage Worlds products, there's a little more detail, right? You might have some box text and things like that which you may not see in a Savage Tale, which is a little more brief and to the point. But I think that's another great thing that we provide. So you can run your friends through weeks and months of adventure, right? On a plot point campaign, especially. And so I really enjoy the format. I did grow up on the hook, line, and sinker, and I think that there's something there as well, right? So we have some upcoming stuff that I can't drop any specific details yet, but we are taking a little kind of a nod to hook, line, and sinkers in having, here's just some adventure ideas in this area of the map, right, that people could take a look at. So I think there's a lot of room for stuff like that as well. And sorry, I can't really track with you guys and read the comments. So if the fans have any questions or snide comments, please throw them my way.
I feel like I feel obligated now that I see Victor in the chat. I'm thinking we did Savage Rifters together. I should have invited him on the show, but not to throw shade at Victor, but I'm glad he didn't, because I don't think anybody would have got a word in edgewise, because Victor would have been like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Because he gets so excited when
Victor's
it comes
great.
to riffs. He's such a fan, man. He's such a fan. It's awesome.
So if you want to hear something weird, it might be weird to you guys. So I was listening to y'all doing that podcast before I got involved writing.
Yeah, it was me. I don't know much about riffs, because it was literally Victor teaching me riffs, and hopefully in the process of him teaching me, you people that didn't know much about it would learn. And it's fantastic. I've absolutely loved the entire setting. He wants to know, where is his questions? He says, is there stats for the Dragon Dreadnought, and what is its toughness? What about the Shadorians? Are they going to be in the new book? And then there's like 17 other questions. So let's just hit those two. Dragon Dreadnought.
So Dragon Dreadnought and Shadorians, no, not in this. So the one thing I will say is this is not just 200 pages that we reprinted Atlantis with Savage Worlds rules. So this does have a lot of other major factions. So what you're going to find is that you're going to find there you have the main APCs, the main power armor, the main troopers, the main stuff for each faction. And there, if you wanted to then split off and say, hey, what about this crazy? I just don't think that I didn't put it in because the Dragon Dreadnought's not going to come up in your weekly adventures, right? You can definitely build that, and I would suggest something like the Sci-Fi Companion, which is, obviously the Suede Sci-Fi Companion is in the works. So
the key places in Atlantis in the old material are the Refuge, the Preserves, Terror Coast, the Great Stone Mountains, which I thought were fantastic, and the Gargoyle Kingdoms. The Gargoyle Kingdoms blew me away, because like when you start listening to it, you're like, oh yeah, there's like 6 million gargoyles that live in this place. I mean, and down to the exact number, right? You're like, I don't know if I could imagine walking around like my familiarity.
Atlantis is scary,
right? My familiarity with gargoyles
I gotta step in here real quick. Gary listens to books. He doesn't necessarily read them, so he thinks everybody listens to books too. So
I do.
when you listen to them, like most people read Gary, so I just want to put it out there.
See,
but he's in a truck. In his defense, he's in a truck all day, doing his thing. So it's easier for him.
It's kind of hard to flip pages and turn a steering wheel at the same time. But I can plug them into my headset, and listen to them, be read to me through like a podcast reader. There's a few other things.
But yeah, we do have all that stuff. Is all those places are here, right? And they're summarized and updated with information. So in anything that people are familiar with, if you've there's a lot of people that they tell me, oh, I don't have my old Rifts books anymore. You'll have all the stuff you need right here. All the major stuff.
Tattoo Magic.
Really?
Yes.
Now,
in fact, Tattoo Magic was the first thing I started writing. And it's the thing that I'm still most focused on with playtesting right now, with internal playtesting.
I was going to ask you how you're playtesting it. So is it going to be a PP kind of a thing, or how is it going to work? Mechanically, how do you think it might end up?
Well, I mean, we're just double checking and tweaking the details, right? So the way that Tattoo Magic works is basically think of it as... It uses strain, so it's like a piece of cybernetics. It's a part of you. It becomes a part of you, and it makes you a little tougher, gives you a little more PPE, and gives you access to activate the magic from the tattoo.
How would you trap activating the power?
How would you trap it?
Rub the tattoo.
You have to physically touch the tattoo. Yep. So just like in Savage Rifts, we have your magic casters have to be able to miracles and arcane background magic with spell casting, right? They have to be able to speak and gesture. Same kind of thing with the similarly, right? With the tattoo magic, you have to be able to touch that tattoo. To be able to activate it. It can't be covered or anything like that.
As you're going through some of these old Rifts books and you're finding, like reading up on tattoo magic in the old Rifts books and getting your ideas and working with Kevin, Savage Worlds, mechanically, when you cast a spell, we've got Bolt that basically covers any missile spell. When you find new spells that sort of don't fall under something that Savage Worlds already covers, who goes about building those? You guys just sort of work out the details? Like, how do you come up with something like, say there was a cool new tattoo power thing that doesn't really fit under? Like, I know they're doing a couple of things with Savage Pathfinder. Like, they're always talking about the wish spell. Like, have you come across a wish spell inside of Rifts that you kind of have to convert that doesn't really fit?
Well, so one of the things when we were bringing Rifts, when I was working with Shane and everybody to bring Rifts up to the Suede edition, is that Shane and I really wanted it to be the foundation to be Suede, the Adventure Edition. And so one of the things that I didn't do is I didn't add new spells. We got rid of any of the new spells because Suede actually, compared to Deluxe, had a lot of new, I shouldn't say spells, I should say powers, right? So Suede had a lot of new powers that Deluxe didn't have, and they really solved most of the glaring things that were missing from Deluxe Rift spells and powers and psychic powers and stuff like that. So what most of those end up being is either a power modifier or power edges. So that's how you have somebody able to, instead of just using the puppet power, they can mentally inhabit someone else's body and take over their body, like a mind melter could or can, right, in Palladium Rifts and in Savage Rifts. And so that's one of the things that I've kind of leaned on, and that the team, original team that designed things, leaned on, was doing things like that through iconic edges, iconic frameworks. And so I've continued that. And so instead of adding a dimensional open a dimensional portal spell, it's a power modifier that you can take in Blood and Banes, in the same book as the Shifter, who's your guy that's going to be opening the portals to other dimensions most easily. So a lot of that is handled through power modifiers and then and edges.
Now, as far as like if you can reveal this as far as Atlantis goes. Is there going to be any more, like you mentioned tattoo magic, but is there going to be any talk about like the biowizardry that's sort of inherent with everything that goes on?
So there's all of your major biowizardry, especially from the original Atlantis core book, is there. We've got the parasites, the symbiotes, the biowizardry weapons, rune statues, all that.
I was trying to find the
Chef's
date.
Kiss.
Chef's kiss. I was trying to find the date. Now, it looks like Atlantis was written in 96. It is 2021, and we now have the internet, and everybody is connected on social media. And you can no longer do things like have sexy blind women that are half naked or slaves, for example. So this is going to be kind of a touchy topic. But in the world, like what I was reading in the Atlantis book, is the Splurgorths, they all have there's like a huge sort of slave economy thing that takes place in Atlantis. The humans aren't looked at as a lower sort of subclass. Are you handling issues with slavery in these books because it's 2021 any different than you were back in 96 when they were originally created?
So this is a subject that's I think is very important. I will say that when I was writing this was in early to mid. I began writing in early to mid 2020. So there was a lot of things going on that really were coming to light, and where people were really focused on, and so that was really important for us to approach this the proper way. So the Splugorth do that because they're evil, right? And that's part of what makes them so evil. That's part of what's so evil about biowizardry, right? They don't, it's not just a biowizardry gun doesn't just, shoot a frost spell. There's a fairy that's trapped in there, enslaved in there, maybe even cut up and lobotomized that they're using to cast that spell. So it's by definition, we're very clear about it, it's very evil. And so that has definitely been on the mind of the team. Me and everybody that helped support me as we were working on this, and as people were reviewing it and giving their thoughts and feedback. And it's also the central conceit of the plot point campaign is what happens when the Tomorrow Legion lands in Atlantis.
Interesting.
And sees some bad stuff going on. I will tell you the name of the plot point campaign is called With Spartacus.
Oh, shiz. Nice.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Because I've seen Spartacus. I bet you Gary hasn't, so I know what you're talking about, Sean. Wink.
I know the TV show.
Okay, you did well. Okay,
of course you do. Of course you do.
We were just talking about that a little while ago with I said it. I just said that it was Peggy Bundy, and then I was like, no, it's not Peggy. And then I was like, woo, what's her name? Xena, Princess Warrior. She's in it.
Yeah,
right.
Huh?
Right.
She's in it.
No, I think that's pretty cool that you guys have determined that the Splugorth are evil. In fact, everything that I've ever read is like they're the number one bad guy in anything that I've ever run, risk-wise or whatever. Lord Springfrith and everything, like he's a bad motherfucker. I wouldn't go near him. Like it's either him or Dunscan. Those are the two that I'm more that I'm more afraid of if I lived in Red Surf. It's both of those two. Do you guys touch on a little more about like Splinthgriff and the whole and all of his and like what the Splugorth actually do and everything like that and just how it just the evil. I guess it's not a word, but the evilosity.
The velocity. No, yeah, there's a lot of velocity to the evilocity. I would say that yes. In fact, that's so one of the, if you want to look for like a structural difference in the book between, say, the American Armageddon books, all of them have a gazetteer at the end of the gear section, right? This one, after talking with Simon, we moved the gazetteer to the front of the book. So you have a section where you can kind of get into get into the feel, and then you go into the character options, right? The frameworks and races and the edges, and then you get into the gear section, and then you get into the new rules in the game master section, and then you get into the rest of the world book, right, where you're going through each chapter will cover different parts of the world. But no, so Atlantis and the evil of Atlantis is the core centerpiece in this book. It is a little bit. Some of the stories and the adventures are a little more dark, and the gazetteer entry that you'll find at the very beginning of the book, instead of cluing you into here's all about Atlantis, right? I mean, Atlantis is a dark land shrouded in mystery. Instead, it teases you with another story of someone who's survived and come back, a coalition soldier who was, captured, enslaved, went into the transmutation torture, and escaped, and has come back, and what happens to him. And so you can read into that and just kind of get an idea of what's going on without giving it away to the players. If the players, go to Atlantis, that should be, to me, it should be 100% discovery, right? There should only be rumors and vague rumors of, massive evilosity that's just increasing, right? And I do start out the book with saying, let me look real quick. I say a phrase that, let's see. Yeah, if they truly understood Atlantis and its connection to the threats of the megaverse, every human nation of Earth would be shaken to its core with despair.
That's a good summation about how terrible Atlantis is. Now, I guess, like on the flip side, as far as Atlantis goes and everything, some people, I guess we had some people asking about, you have Splugorth biomancy, and I guess that's is that touch? You touch base on that?
So with well, we do have their weapons, like the stuff that they create, but I mean you can't play, one of their bio wizards. Just like you couldn't in the original Atlantis, right?
Is Splugorth biomancy going to be different from Lumerian biomancy?
So biomancy is Lumerian and biowizardry is Splugorth. Okay. So those are two different things. Now, one thing I will say, we do have the Lemurians in this book. We do not have the biomancy. So the Lemurian biomancy is actually going to be in the next book, and the next book is going to be the Land of 1,000 Islands. That's South America.
Oh,
so there was a lot of this book had a lot of new systems, right? It has stone magic, it's got biowizardry, it's got tattoo magic, it's got rules for underwater combat. So there was all the symbiotes and parasites, the rune weapons. I mean, there was just so much, right? That was I thought that it was best to put that to the next book, to make sure that we could give it the shrift that it deserves. But that is in development right now. So
Mike PGS wanted to know if there will be temporal wizards in this book, and I think this ties in perfectly, because this I'm going to add to that and just ask this sort of weird sidetrack question. So you can answer with a yes or no on the temporal wizards, but here's my question: when you take a look at the entire Rifts megaverse and you go to convert it over to Savage Rifts,
right?
How do you determine? I'm imagining that you have a list of books on the back wall, and you're like a police crime scene thing, right? This book, this strings, right. Red strings here, red strings there,
right?
And then
kind of
inside of all of that, you're like, okay, well, the Splugorths, they got to go in the Atlantic book. We can't put them in this other book, even though I want to put them in with some stuff in North America. So temporal wizards, yes or no?
No. So again, that's a whole nother. Again, that would be a whole nother thing that I don't. So one of the things is I want to make sure there's something fun and interesting in each book. This book already has so many race and character and gear options. It's got, I think, at least as many races as the original Player's Guide, right? The TLPG. It's got more gear than the TLPG, the Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide, right? So there's a lot already going on, and so I want to make sure that we don't have to shortchange anything. I want biowizardry, I want temporal magic, I want all of that stuff to to feel unique and have room to breathe, right? So that is going to come later on when we get towards Europe. Kevin and I have had some discussions. I've had some discussions with some of the guys that the writing team that I have and things, but we'll see how we divide up Europe. I have some strong ideas there, but the idea with this book is to get players onto and into the underseas and on the surface of the seas. So you've got the Lemurians and the Tritonians and the New Navy, right? But you also have the Haroon pirates, the Not Yul, and their threat lurking under the waves. Their expansionist nation lurking under the waves as well. You have the Lord of the Deep and his minions. And the Milu vampires, if anyone remembers them, with Davy Jones leading them. So you have a lot of undersea threats and sea threats, but you have this book has ships and underwater gear and blue-green lasers,
Nice.
and rules for all that kind of stuff, death charges, all that kind of thing. So you can play your game and enjoy it, and get you from North America to everywhere else, right? Because South America is, because of the rising sea level, it's like a shattered continent of a bunch of islands. You have to be able to cross water to get there, unless you're using a rift, of course, right? But to get to Europe, to get to Africa, to get to Asia, right, you need a boat. And so that's what that was my aim with this book at a high level, was to give everybody the ability to do that. And so one of the factions that I talked with Kevin and is making a resurgence. If everyone remembers Rift's Mercenaries, we have any Rift's Mercenaries fans in the chat? Everybody probably remember Ironheart. There's Ironheart Armaments, so they made a lot of like tanks and helicopters and warships, and so they're back. Their successor is back as Avenger Armaments. So the Tomorrow Legion can go and has contacts through them to buy lots of ships and seafaring equipment.
So the portaling and stuff like that, John V. Adams wanted to know if the Atlantis connections to the Megaverse, can you say if we're going to see a Dimension book type content in the future? Because you're talking about portaling around, and I'm like, that kind of cues into what he's asking.
No, that's a great question. I did and I haven't done anything on my YouTube channel in a while, but the last thing I did was a big, like 2.5, 3 hour long interview with Kevin Sambita. And so Kevin is definitely open to us doing things like that. We just want to make sure that, it's the question of, do you want a Dimension book, or do you want you want to explore Rift's Earth more, right? And so making those decisions is tough. So I can't give a definitive answer, but I'll tell you that I'm definitely interested in moving out into Dimension books and stuff like that as well. Also, this book has tons of, it has the rules for magic, stone pyramids, pyramid magic. So if you have something you already want to do, this is going to give you the fodder and the rules you need to be able to do that.
Stone magic. Can we talk about that? How is it going to work? It's
Absolutely
going to be like regular magic, PP kind of a thing. Manipulate the earth as your trapping, sort of a deal. Lay it on me, brother.
So basically the way it works with the Stone Master is that yes, they have the ability to cast spells as normal, but that's not really their focus. Their focus is their manipulation of the earth, which is quite powerful, a lot of fun, and at least that's what people have told me so far. They also have the ability to extract, or I should say access, the inherent magic within gems that they can then channel and cast powers out of the gems. And so there's also gem magic, and there's a gem mastery iconic edge that you can take to get even better at using gems to cast powers and spells. And there's also a geomancy iconic edge that you can take as well, for if you want to get more into like geomantic augury and stuff like that, divination.
Was reading something or listening to something, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
about there was some kind of gem encrusted something or other, and it said it was either guarded by, or I was under the impression that it said Eye of Ilor. Now, is that a monster? Is that a critter or a bad guy or something like that guards this weird golden gem encrusted thing?
Yeah, so if you remember, like from the original Rifts cover, there's the floating eyeballs. So those are all, whether big or small, those are Eyes of Ilor, and they come from another dimension that's hidden that the Slugorth don't want anyone to know where it is, right? But that's a big component in a lot of their biowizardry. The Eyes of Ilor, they are able to use them basically like a lobotomized magic component for lots of vision-based powers. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of Eye of Ilor based stuff here in the book.
I'm excited for rune magic. That's going to be sweet. I can't remember what video game it was where you could socket. Oh, I think it might have been Lord of the Rings. In one of after the Mines of Lemuria, Mines of Moria that came out. They came out with this thing where you could make legendary weapons, and then inside that weapon you could insert gems and stuff to like sort of customize it to your own ability and whatnot. Not that that's going to be like this, but I did really enjoy that, so I think I'm going to enjoy, rune magic and stuff like that. There's
a cool stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, and I think especially as a game master, you have the ability to play with a lot of these toys because by definition, that stuff's evil. So most players, most good-hearted heroes would probably destroy biowizardry equipment, especially once they realize how it functions and how it's made. So there's not like rules for building your own biowizardry stuff, but there's a lot of biowizardry equipment and items in the game that you can have a lot of fun with.
So if I'm going to let Jay take it over from here because I keep asking questions, but this is going to be my last one. The blind warrior women, is this going to bring me back to my days of the Sears catalog in my bathroom when I was prepubescent? And if not, can we make it so?
Have you seen the preliminary cover art?
No, I haven't. Not for this one, but I mean, I've seen.
I mean, it's very reminiscent of the original Rifts cover. Has a Slugor slaver with his Altaran warrior woman retinue. So yes.
Yeah. No.
All I'm saying is an Altara one will straight up kick your ass, Gary. Straight up, would friggin' kick you in the ding ding and kick your stomach out the butthole. That's all I'm saying.
Kick me in the ding ding so hard I'd have an explosion out the back end. Is that what you're after?
She'd kick you so hard you wouldn't have IBS anymore.
Wow.
You've had
this
SBI.
This book also has a lot of has the Undead Slayer, has the tattooed warriors, right? So you've got a lot of shirtless, brawny men in the book as well, covered in tattoos. For anyone who's fans of that.
Well, there you go. We got to cater to everybody, man. We can't just we can't be sexist and just have everything catered to Gary, man. There's probably some people who want to see some sexy dudes out there.
I miss the good old days.
Always be about it. Well, I mean, but it was good old days for some people,
right?
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I miss the good old days when you could be sexist. Not really, but I'm just. All right, moving on. Liberated underground rebels in this book.
Yes, they're touched upon. I didn't do anything with that specific faction and those specific characters heavily in this because I didn't want to mess with something Kevin might want to work with in the future. But there is a faction that is like a parallel faction that also works with them that you can definitely have a lot of adventures with in this book.
What else you got, Jay? Lay it on them. Now's your chance.
Well, see, here's the thing. Just in talking with you, Sean, I get a sense that you really, really, I think you really dig the Atlantis. I mean, Atlantis and everything like that. Would you have to say is this your favorite Rifts book or one of them? At least,
yeah, it definitely is. I'm super into Atlantis, absolutely, and I always really liked the New Navy as well. And so this is the book that before I was the line, manager and all that kind of stuff. Back in the day, I remember having conversations about, I'd really like to write this book or or whatever, and talking with people about stuff like that. And this is one of the ones that this is like the number one. The other one that I'd say that I really want to make sure that I at least have some sort of connection to is
Africa.
Well, it's China.
Africa.
I speak Mandarin, and I was a Chinese analyst in the Air Force, so I'm a big fan of Chinese culture and stuff like that. So,
I was a counterintelligence agent in the Army, so that's interesting. I almost went to. Did you go to DLI?
Yeah, I went to the Defense Language Institute. Yeah, Monterey. Yep. There was actually interrogators that I had in class with me. Yep, Army interrogators.
I almost became one, but they talked me out of it. But I scored really high on a D lab, and so I was a little bit jealous of like anybody who could go to DLI. But on a side note, no, as far as just the Africa is probably my favorite world book because the Four Horsemen, the Apocalypse, and everything like that. And I know we're supposed to talk about Atlantis, but though I was like, are we gonna touch out of the Four Horsemen, man? Are we gonna see those down the road?
I don't think you can do Savage Rifts without doing the Four Horsemen. Let me just put it that way. I mean, that's something you can't just not do.
It's funny. Just reading, they touch base in what is it, Arcana and Mysticism. They touch base about you go to Clavicle, and there's a whole they worship the Horsemen of Death there and everything.
The death, yeah.
All right, I got a hit there, and I'm just hoping that we get a big book on Africa and the Four Horsemen or something.
Yeah, I mean, Savage Rifts is riffs, right? We work really hard to make sure that the lore is compatible. There's stuff that I've come up with, right, and talked to Kevin. I'm like, is this a good update? Is this something that fits? And he's like, hey, send me your notes so that I have that the next time I'm working on something in that part of the world in Palladium Rifts. He's already added Tomorrow Legionnaires to random encounter tables in Palladium Rifts. And he already had me do a write-up for what happens with the Tomorrow Legion in Palladium Rifts circa 110, 111 PA. So I don't know. Oh, wow. I don't know what we might see it in, right? I don't know I know they're doing a lot of work on a lot of different books, but hopefully that sees print at some point. One of the big things that he and I have talked about and is that Savage Rifts is going to be the same until it isn't. So, and the whole point is after 109 PA, the timelines will diverge, right? And that's kind of the fun thing is that eventually there will be divergences and stuff. So the Tomorrow Legion that you will see in Palladium Rifts is more on the back foot because some bad things have happened. But hopefully, I'd like to do some sort of living campaign or some sort of campaign event or something like that, where we could get results from players, and hopefully the Tomorrow Legion will do well as the timeline marches forward once we get to that point.
You got 30
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, you got 30 years of books to catch up on.
I'm trying. I jammed as many as I could in this book. I think we got 5 solid books in this one. Yeah.
You just need to listen to them like Gary does. You just need to listen to these nonstop and just, have your phone on you and just listen to these PDFs nonstop. And so you can just crank out all this material.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the trouble.
It's like, I can't remember what his name is. Stephen Hawking's is reading me these books. Some books take extra time because they are so elaborate or demand some way, not this one. And then the funny part is, and then she gets to the part where it says Splugorth, and she'll read it to me as Splugorth. And you're like, what? Yeah, you have to convert some things in your brain. And the worst part about it is because I have purchased them through drive-thru, at the bottom, drive-thru puts that little link on it. So at the end of every page, it's
and it reads it reads it every
Murder
page.
Hobo, order number 71345, and then it goes on, right? But that's how I count how many pages I got.
That's your page marker. Yeah.
Stupid things. Frickin'
That's
annoying,
great.
can I tell you that much? That's cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been awesome. There's a gazillion questions. Somebody was asking about the Four Horsemen, if there's going to be a take on the Seven Dangers prophecy in the upcoming books or plans to slip some in.
So the Seven Dangers, Kevin and I have talked about this. The Seven Dangers are kind of central to the whole setting, right? One of the things that is important is not to have intellectual property conflicts. So one of the big conflicts there, or with some of the original, like say conversion book material, which had a lot of Palladium fantasy in it, and that's not advisable from an intellectual property point of view, right? And same thing, and I think Rifts doesn't need all these other intellectual properties that, as well. It has so much of its own lore. But one of the big ones that was tough is because that is actually contained in the Mechanoids source book, right? And the Mechanoids are a separate intellectual property, just like all the different Dimension books are a separate intellectual property. I don't know about anything I mean, it depends. There's seven dangers, right? But no, I directly just discuss the seven dangers in quite a few places here and there in this book, and I think other books. But I haven't done like a retread or a discussion of those yet. But maybe we will as we have material that might focus on one of them specifically. I know that there was a lot of mention of it and I didn't write that book, but when they had the campaign against Nixla, right, in Arcana and Mysticism. So I'm not sure how much they directly referenced. I don't remember how much they directly referenced the seven prophecies, but that is one of the ones that I think was prophesied. So
I want to say, yeah, I think they touched base on that a little bit. In fact, that's the one I'm reading right now. I'm reading that. I'm reading Souls of Darkness right now because that's the next campaign I want to run. And maybe then switch over. I really liked the what was it? Empires of Humanity. I really liked what was going on in there too. So,
thanks.
It was good stuff, Sean.
Yeah, I
appreciate it.
I wish I got my books. Mine, I ordered. This was just weird. I was looking up on Kickstarter today. So, in my brain, for some reason, let me tell you my stupid story. In my brain, for some reason, there was a Savage Worlds Deluxe Rifts, a Savage Rifts Deluxe, and then we came out with Suede, and then all of the Rifts books got rewritten, and including the core plus the books that you guys did, the Arcana and Mysticism, and all the other three. Now those three got packaged up with the original or with the new ones that were rewritten into another box set. Is my timeline correct? So the three North American books, they aren't part. They were part of the same Kickstarter, but they weren't in the same box. So if you buy the collector's adventure edition of Savage Rifts, you're going like the Suede Savage Rifts box. You're going to get the new Suede Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide, Game Master's Handbook, and Savage Foes of North America that I worked on. Yeah, hence my confusion because my stuff.
And then separately, you've got the Empires of Humanity, Arcana and Mysticism, Blood and Banes, and then the Tomorrow Legion Field Guide, which is some new material like Dragon Hatchlings and some new edges and elementals and stuff like that. A Bounty Hunter Mars framework, some new vehicles, and then that I wrote, and then a bunch of adventure material from Deluxe that I went over and updated for the new, for the adventure edition of Savage Rifts.
Yeah, that had.
What he's getting at though is his stuff is stuck over in the state. Like he had his stuff shipped to the States. He lives really close to the border, and right when the pandemic hit, his stuff has been locked over in the States, and he can't get it.
I know that's been really tough. I have family overseas. It's just been a real pain to try and mail things and get things through quarantine and their shipping. And
he's going to cry to anybody. I'll just let him know. Anybody who wants to hear it, he's going to cry about his poor books. But I got a plan though. I got a plan because I'm going to be living roughly about 4.5 hours away from Gary. I'm going to hijack his books and I'm going to try to yeet them across the border.
For anybody that's still here hanging out, you're going to see the video on the subreddit "Hold My Feeding Tube" as I throw a package across the border. It's going to be a picture. It's going to be a video of Jay throwing my box set over and then immediately getting gunned down. So I don't know how well that's going to work, but no, I wasn't.
You guys don't have guns over there.
No, you'll get shot by your own
guys.
You guys
have brooms or something.
Yeah,
they don't care what we do to you guys.
We'll see.
They don't care.
We'll see. More to my point, I was looking on Kickstarter trying to find out where the Kickstarter was for the 3 books that you came, but I was going to say that when you guys rewrote those books into the suede version, that had to be the best freaking Kickstarter deal that Pinnacles ever came out with. Not only did I get
That was an amazing deal.
right, it was like
That was a
$150,
killer deal
everything rewritten into suede
for like 7 books. I mean, like 1,000 pages of material.
right.
It was nuts.
Anybody
It
that
was nuts.
did not get that is insane. Like it was.
Yeah, Shane really. He doesn't like coming out with new editions just to, some companies might do that to try and pad their sales or whatever, come out with a new edition with some minor changes or updates, right? But Shane doesn't like to do that. And so because of that, he was very generous, I think, with the American Armageddon Kickstarter. And that was an amazing deal. That was an amazing deal. Good time to get into Savage Rifts.
I was like, take all my money. I took out a loan on my house to get that. Just so, a small portion.
Well, see, now I don't feel bad about. Well, see, I don't feel bad about backing the not backing the deluxe one because I went all in on this one, and man, I'm proud. Like I said, we
appreciate it.
These books are. Oh, it's awesome! I keep doing good work, and I'll throw money at you. That's how that's how stuff works. I think, or you would hope anyway. You do good stuff, fling. I'll throw a picture of George Washington at you, or maybe one of who's that other guy, Benjamin Franklin? He's a patriot guy. We like him, don't we?
Yep. And you strap
for sure.
He's a smart guy.
Strap a thong.
My guy had syphilis. He was all right. What are you saying?
I say,
no, he did. He had syphilis, man. That's what Benjamin Franklin had syphilis. But you don't know who these people are. These are Americans, man. You don't know. We're not talking about Pepe Le Pew or whoever you guys, who is your prime minister or whatever.
You spritz yourself with some
so
olive
you can't
oil.
say anything.
Pepe Le Pew. Somebody was. I don't know if you guys watched this guy. His name is Bald and Bankrupt. But he goes to like places in Russia and stuff like that, and he walks around and he shows you all of these like little places that have fallen apart after the collapse of the Russian Empire and stuff like that. And just the other day, he's got 2 channels. He's got the Daily Bald and he's got Bald and Bankrupt. And on the Daily Bald, he was talking about the Canadian premier called him something like a ladyboy or something like that. He was dainty or some other thing like that. And I'm like, it took me a second, but yeah, he was talking about Pierre Trudeau. Is that his name? No, Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau, yeah.
Shows you how much I pay attention to politics. Is there anything, Sean, that you want to touch on before we pull the pin on this sucker?
Let me see. I mean, I just want to make sure that everybody, knows we've got a lot of cool stuff coming in this new book. The one thing I've talked about the tattoo magic, so that covers like the Tattoo Warrior, the Undead Slayer. We've got the Stone Master, and so the gym magic and all that kind of stuff. But we also have the Atlantean Nomad as a Mars framework. We've got Lemurian Bird Warriors, the Lemurian Serpent Hunters, Ocean Wizards, Sea Druids, Sea Inquisitor, and then just a whole gaggle of different races that you can play as well. So I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. People are going to be able to have a lot of fun with this book. And it'll answer a lot of those questions of all the stuff that they've wanted to see. Do I get to shoot a Katani commando in the face? Do you want to see your players get stabbed to death by, a Katani in serpent power armor? Yes. So, beat to death by, Slugorth power lords and overlords? Yes. So, eaten by Metzla? Yes. Killed by Haroon pirates? Yes. Captured and by the Not'yil, yes. Terrified and mutated by the Lord of the Deep, yes. So all those things are possible with this book.
Now,
I've never been scared of. Damn it, Gary! Quit cutting me off.
Sorry, buddy.
No. See, I've never been scared. I've never been scared of aliens or anything like that. Bigfoot or whatever. But what I have always been afraid of are the underwater sea people, because you read about stuff that floats up and everything, that just mysterious stuff that floats up on beaches and everything.
I know, right?
So you can't tell me that there's something not happening down there right now. And so if we're bringing that to the surface with this new book, holy Jeebus, this is all I'm going to do is just scare the crap out of my players with it.
Yeah, yeah. We've got, and there's, this has got.
Oh snap. We froze. It's weird how he's the only one that froze. Houston, we have a problem. Get it? Because he's from Texas. He's from Houston.
Yes, that's Like, Sean, come back, Sean.
Give it a sec, see if he comes back. Anyways, Jay, in this book, there was a deal in this book. Maybe you can answer this question. This is an idea that I had. Well, Sean's frozen. Actually, it's kind of funny when you look at his face frozen like that. He's like Matthew Colville with his mouth always open. But anyways, there was a cool thing that was in this book where they were talking about how they would take some of the slavers out. The head guy that you were talking about that runs the show, the sort of the head king of Atlantis, I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, Splimcrest.
Okay, so that guy has like an area designated as a forest where you can go and like hunt humans and stuff like that. And you take the old gimmick of your party and your party wakes up in a jail and you got no armor, you got no weapons. And I was thinking to myself, man, he takes people out there like humans and he sets them free and they hunt them down. And I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, that would be freaking sweet, because if I rolled that with my players, where the old gimmick where they wake up in the jail cell with, or whatever, tied and bound, and they don't have armor, but in this example, you put them in a cart, drag them out to the forest. You're like, okay, run for it, suckers, right? And then chase them down. I'm shooting some peeps. This is how my party's going down.
Hey, Sean. Looks like no. Sean just.
We'll give him a second. Mess up the channel, see if he comes back. Maybe he exploded. But anyways, you know what? Go ahead, Jay.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, you were talking about, because that's exactly right. Like, a lot of Atlantis' economy is based on this interdimensional slaving. So, that's, I mean, just the fact that you're throwing that in the mix. What are you doing, weirdo?
Well, because Sean's gone, the video's kind of gone sideways. So if I put my head over to this side, I'm where Sean used to be. Now I am Riffs Master Sean Owen Roberson. And if I put my face down here, now I'm back to where the Murder Hobo is. But that's cool. We've done our hour.
Everybody.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I want everybody to look, and this is what adult ADHD looks like, everybody. I just want to show you.
All right. Well, we're going to put a pin in this episode. Thanks, everybody, for coming out and checking out the show. Sean, I don't know what happened to you, but I think I'm going to actually reach out to Sean and see if I can get him to come back on the show and just talk riffs. It's fun sometimes. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be about new stuff or any of this kind of stuff. No. But there's 30 years of cool stuff that I need to fill my brain with so that I can play these bloody games. And I don't think that I could read all that stuff. I'm not that smart.
So Sean says he lost power, and so he just came back on, but his router, so he's having technical trouble. So Sorry, Sean.
Cool.
That sucks, buddy.
Yep. Well, we're going to put a pin in this show then. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. That's it for this episode, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks, when we do our next show. That'll be about something else. Say goodbye, Jay.
I'm trying to get you to talk more riffs, though, so maybe we'll talk more riffs. But you have a good one there, Gary, and here in a little bit, we'll be in the same time zone.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. My head is split in the deal. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Adios, folks.
The Murder Hobo RPG show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or that appear on our website are the property and copyright of the respected owners. All items are used under fair use for educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo RPG show, copyright 2021, all rights reserved.